captivated. I'm captivated.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Tea Time with Afternoon Social. And today is Try It Thursdays, and we have our guest, very special guest who's been with us all week. So if you haven't seen the videos, go back and see the others. Her name is Rose Caiazzo, and she is a consultant and founder of the Social Media Secrets Club. She's a voiceover artist and a syndicated radio host. And today is going to key into another one of her passions. She's a mountain biking guide. And she's just made a great transformation from New York to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, to be in the great outdoors and teach others about mountain biking and how and what's out there. I haven't been on a mountain bike guide before, so this is going to be interesting to hear some tips and techniques on what mountain biking is all about. And so, Rose, I'm going to turn it over to you and let us explain to us some tips on the guide to mountain biking.
Okay, well, that's a loaded question. First of all, I just wanted to, I hate to do this to you, but I have to correct my last name.
I'm sorry, I did it again.
Okay. It's a little tiny town in Italy, so it's a tough one. It's Caiazzo. So yeah, it's always been difficult ever since I've been born. So don't worry, I'm used to it.
Yes, my mother's maiden name is Crezon, so.
Oh yeah. You're like, how do I spell? There's too many vowels in your name. I'm like, I'm sorry. Well, so I've been a mountain bike guide for 14 years, but I've been mountain biking in New York for, many years before that, although I wouldn't really call it mountain biking because in New York, there's not a lot, or where I lived in Long Island, there's not a lot of hills or mountains. So
right.
But I was a biker, like as a baby, 6 months old, I didn't even crawl. I went from, laying on my back, standing in the crib to walking. So the same thing happened with the bike. I got on the bike, they put the training wheels on. I was like, take those things off. I don't like it. And then off I went on my bicycle. And so I've been biking ever since. I used to only mountain bike because I thought, road biking wasn't cool. And so, but I actually have 4 bikes. I have a road bike. I have a mountain bike. I also have a fatty, we call it. It's either called like a snow bike or a beach bike, right? Because it has the really wide tires. So I ride it on the snow in Jackson. And also a townie bike, which is like a really fun one with the basket. Those are like the beach cruisers. Yeah. And I have one on order, which I haven't been able to get yet, but an electric bike, so I can get into town better. So yes, I am like the biggest bike head you have met. That's a woman. I was biking in Jackson Hole before I could afford a fat bike, let's put it that way. And I was riding my mountain bike on the icy roads, like to go do my laundry. I mean, I'm pretty bad bleep,
Yeah.
When it comes to biking, like that's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of people are afraid of mountain biking because you break a lot of collarbones, you break legs, you break arms, you hurt your neck, you can do all kinds of damage to your body. But that's kind of like with any sport, right? Like right. I feel that with snowboarding. I snowboard, but I only snowboard when it's powder snow. So I call myself a powder snot. So if it snowed like a foot, then I'm going snowboarding because I know I can't hurt myself, right? Mm-hmm. Something about mountain biking does not scare me. So the first thing I would say, a tip for mountain biking, is to get over the fear that you're going to fall off, right? Because you have control. You have brakes that are here, the right holds the rear, and that's the one you really want to grip the most. So if you're lefty, sorry, you really got to get used to this right thing. Unless you have a bike shop, rearrange them. Actually, on the other side of the world in Australia, the left is the rear, which is very strange. And I was like, no, you're going to need to change that for me because I will forget and I will go flying over the handlebars because that's the rule, right? Right. Meaning your back tire is actually stopping you as opposed to the left, which stops the front tire, which if you only use your left brake, you'll go over the handlebars because the bike stops so short in the front that you go this way, right? And that we never want that to happen. So whenever you're braking, my tip for when I, because I'm a mountain bike guide and I work with people that are visiting Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I tell them to use the brakes. All you need to remember is nice, easy pumping motion, right? That's all you need to know. Don't brake too hard. Don't brake too slow, which I can't imagine someone doing that. They usually brake too hard and too fast. So it's usually just like nice, easy pumping motion. And then people, oh, okay, I get it. And then I let them ride around a little bit, to get the feel of that. Because sometimes people haven't ridden in a long time, but then they get a wild hair and they're like, I want to go mountain biking, right? And then all of a sudden they're doing it. So another tip would be to pick mountain biking that is not a lot of hills or mountains per se, but you're actually riding on rock and dirt because it's a very different feeling than riding on the road. So once you get that feeling of that dirt and rocks and trying to avoid like tree stumps or whatever is on this pathway for this bike ride, then you're able to move to the next level, which would be, to maybe do more hills, which we call more of cross country, meaning that some hills, right? But then there's a lot of flat. So it's combined with some hills. And then if you talk about downhill mountain biking, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I do because I can bike like a guy. I can bike with guys, because guys typically like to bike with girls because we're a little slow in the mountain biking area. But for me, I'm very fast. I have very fast reflexes because that's important too. There might be all of a sudden the trail gets thin and then there's a tree there. So you need to make sure your handlebars are also cut to a certain length to make sure you can get through these trails that you want to get through. So if you're doing downhill mountain biking, the best thing to remember is, you're looking ahead, kind of like with a lot of sports, you're not looking down, right? Right. You're looking ahead and you're making sure that you're viewing the obstacles before they come, before your bike, moves on. Now, I don't use clips, which is typically special shoes that clip into the pedal, right? And then it helps you get up hills better. And some people really like to use clips mountain biking, but I don't because I feel like I have a better chance at saving my teeth. Right. If I throw the bike. So if I do happen to get in a precarious position, I am able to throw the bike because my butt is so far off the back of the bike, right? Off the seat. Because that's another way to ride. If you're going downhill, the more your bum is actually off the seat, right? Or you're riding crouched the whole time. So you have to make sure your body can actually handle that type of movement, right, on the body because you're doing a lot of jolting on the joints. But the bike that you should have when you do mountain biking should have double suspension. So that means there's suspension in the front with, where you're riding handlebars. So there's movement here. There's actually a stem there that actually moves with you, right? And then by the seat. So by the seat, your seat will also do this in the motion of you moving up and down. So it's really about the levels that you feel comfortable with. And of course, I would suggest starting at the flat level, then the medium level has some hills, getting used to that. And then, which is a little bit different than mountain biking, but I like to do the whoops. So if you know what a whoop is, it basically looks like this. It goes up and then it's like flat for a second and then it goes down. So when you go up the whoop and then the bike goes up in the air and then you go down like this, right?
Almost like a roller coaster.
You'll find them on mountain bike trails, right?
Okay.
Oh, and usually if you see the whoops, you'll be able to go around them. So there's always a way to go around if you don't want to go up and down.
Down. You don't want to do that roller coaster ride. Yeah.
Right. I would always recommend wearing a helmet as well.
Yeah.
And in a lot of places, you'll find more comfort for your hands by wearing gloves. And they're usually happy gloves. So they go
Right.
to here. And then that way while you're riding, because they also have pads on, they have pads on them in special places. So when you're riding and all that jolting and moving up and down is happening, it's actually protecting the pads of your hands because you don't want them to go numb.
Right.
Doing this a lot,
Right.
you start to go numb. So a loose grip is really preferred. Nice, easy pumping motion on the brake. And just remembering that you're looking ahead of you are the tips I'd give.
Okay. Now, you say you go around the mountains and things. Is there a lot of lakes? And what kind of adventures are out there in Jackson Hole that they can go see on a mountain bike?
Oh, we've got tons. I mean, first of all, you're not allowed to ride your mountain bike inside national parks. So that's illegal.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can't ride in the national parks, but you can ride in other parks that are designated for riding. So as local to Jackson Hole, I know a lot of secret places to go for riding. And one of my favorite actually happens to be a favorite for many of us living in town because it's close and it's easy. And one of those places is called Cache Creek. And it's cache the way it's spelled for like a squirrel nut cache, C-A-C-H-E.
Okay.
And cache it has a lot of different pathways that are, some are easy, some are more difficult. If you know or speak with someone that, has the knowledge, they can lead you down a trail that is super simplistic. So there's lots of different places to ride there. And then we have other areas that, you actually have to ride your bike like through a few creeks, right?
Oh,
So
cool. Okay.
you're not going to be able to get past the creek unless you ride through the creek. And people are not like walking with their bikes. You're literally like splashing through to get across. There's lots of root systems from the trees that grow. So you have to be okay with going over some of those roots, right? Like you don't want to do it at the biggest part of the route. So you have to make sure you're maneuvering to a side where you could actually then, get over the roots with a little bit of bump. And then you're basically looking for, like, in skiing, they call it the line, right?
Right.
When you ski backcountry skiing, you look for the perfect line, meaning I'm going to go this way, then that way, and this way. Okay. And I'm ready, right? With mountain biking, you can't pre-plan all of that, but you can, kind of take a look and say, okay, I see that this is going to have a lot of, like wide turns where I'm going to have to maybe, like slow down before I reach that turn because the place go like around like this. So if you can also test different terrain, you'll become more familiar and more comfortable with the way you want to ride that terrain. So, but there's lots of, lakes and streams and rivers. We have lots of that there. Different parts of the area, like if you go on the other side in Idaho. So I don't know if you knew this or anyone else, Jackson Hole, Wyoming is on the border of Idaho. So in Idaho, there's the Big Hole Mountains, right?
Okay.
And you go and you can actually ride a dirt bike if you wanted to in that area. So, and then there's the other side of the Tetons, which is parts of it. If it's wilderness, you can't ride in it. But if it's designated for some biking, then you're able to ride it. So there are other trails on the other side of the Tetons. There's trails everywhere. Right? If you wanted to ride down what we call Teton Pass, there's a couple of different ones that go off of that. So you'd be riding downhill for a long time. And that's really fun to do in July because all the wildflowers come out, and it's just like riding in some kind of postcard. Right?
That sounds
everywhere.
Sounds fabulous. Yes.
But it's winter here now, so I've been reading. Well, right now I'm in South Carolina, but I've been reading about my town, and it's full on winter now. So.
Oh, I'm sure up there in the mountains, because I'm sure even in the summertime it doesn't get extremely hot up there either.
No. Although this past summer was pretty hot, and it was, I call myself a polar bear. I prefer the cold, but not the heat.
Yeah. Well,
but I still like the beach, right? Because I'm in South Carolina at the beach, and I adore it. But it's not like I would take up mountain biking here. I would do more like beach cruising, or do some road biking type thing. Yeah.
When you talked about the townie bike, I remembered I have one in the basement that I have my mother's bicycle, and I think she had it clear back in the 80s, so that's how old this thing is, and it's got the 2 baskets on the rear back. And
right.
So we're talking about a real old lady bike.
Hey, but you can get a lot of money for selling bikes right now because they're hard to get.
Yeah.
Everyone realizes with COVID that, they want a bike. And so the bike manufacturers are way overloaded. Like, I've been waiting for my electric bike to arrive for over 8 years now.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. What did I say? 8 years? I meant 8 months.
8 months. Oh, okay. I was like 8 years.
Wait, did I just say years? No, not that long. I don't need, no. 8 months, which is still a long time because summer's already gone, so I can't use it. But I'm so passionate about biking that I even have one of those trainers in my house.
Oh, okay.
And that electric bike will become my trainer in the house for winter. Like if it's too cold, sometimes when it's like -20, you're like, nah.
Yeah, I don't think biking is a fun thing at all. No.
Sometimes when it's, 0, you're like, I could go for a fat bike ride, just a little, twirl around town or what have you. But sometimes when it's too cold, it's just like, I'll just have a bike inside. So I'm grateful for my trainer.
Yes, because I'm sure you don't even want to take a chance on the ice. I mean, sometimes you're just asking for trouble.
That's true. Although the fat bikes handle it very well because they spread, right? Because the tires are so fat that, and they do clear some of the walkways. So if you can get over to the pathway, you can ride a pathway like miles and miles back and forth.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So we're a very passionate community of outdoor enthusiasts, really. So like, if we want a pathway to be groomed, is what we call it, in the snow, then we get it groomed. Like we'll raise the funds to make it happen. And in winter, I ride the fat bike in the mountains. So we have a special groomer that's, about, I don't know, the size of a pathway would be, right? And they use the special groomer in the mountains. So that way we can actually ride up and down in the mountains, like mountain biking in the snow.
Fun.
And that Cache Creek where I first mentioned. It's so great.
That sounds really fabulous. Well, I think that's our time for today here on Try It Thursdays and all of the mountain biking techniques. And it sounds like that would be an excellent adventure to go to Jackson Hole and have Rose guide you through the mountains there. And as always, I'm going to have all of our contact information on the post with this video. So thank you for joining us on Try It Thursdays today, Rose. And we'll see you again tomorrow on Friends Day Fridays. And she's going to talk to us about being a voiceover artist and a syndicated radio host tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow, and we will hear some more of her stories tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, Rose. Bye-bye.
I'm captivated.